Hello, Luis. That was a bad path to take. Tough map. Still don't like those maps where it's just constant up and down. So hard to build momentum. Oh, this is another one of these maps. I hate this. Let me build some momentum, man. Oh my god. I'm cooked. Oh man, I can even see the ending too. That sucks. Damn it. I forgot to pause. I need to ban real fast. Let's see.
Select your god.
I don't even know what to play, to be honest. Double ADC, huh? I'll do some chalk. I'm kind of in the mood for some full damage chalk. Almost forgot to trade there. Do I do aspect or non-aspect? I'm tempted to do non-aspect just because they have 3 ADCs, and I could just go for a heavy anti-attack speed build on Chalk. But I do fear without current comp that we might not have enough damage if I do that. And I just hate playing full tank Chalk. Excuse me, full tank Chalk anyway. It's so unsatisfying throwing out your whole kit and you just don't do any damage. But there is a chance I might have to go into a Spectral either way. We'll see. Suppose it depends on how it goes too. Like, Neith and Cupid obviously won't. I guess not. I don't actually need to do Spectral anyway when I think about it. I doubt that Cupid as well as... I mean, Neith definitely shouldn't be going for attack speed and crit. And I'm not sure what Cupid jungle honestly builds. I haven't really taken a look at it. But surely it's not crit. Maybe it is. Rage might be that good. Alright. Time to wake up though. I'm gonna go Aegis. Because I will do full damage Chuck here. Okami, okay. Interesting. What do I do early? I think I'll do an aggressive start. 4 ADCs, Acne aspect as well. Yeah, I suppose you built in physical, right? I haven't met this before. He's ADC. Interesting. I do want to see how it works. And I imagine... Okay, so it's going to be on her support. In fact. Weird. But okay. Neath mid.
Minions have spawned.
Okay.
Some disrespect on Okami. I need my game to stop stuttering. I don't know what's happening. but I don't like it. Where's he at, though?
Enemy missing right.
Dude, the stuttering is getting a bit annoying. I need it to stop. Weird cringe gank. I guess that means that's why Cerberus was so slow during the buff.
Completed. Ha-ha! Awesome. Your left tower is under attack.
Actually, I'm gonna go do the rocks. Except, I guess he already did. Shit.
Completed. Retreat.
Okay. Okay.
An ally has been slain.
I mean, bro, you just kind of got... What are you helloing? You just got shot on, bro. What do you mean?
I recognize this voice. That's the I stole your speed guy.
Yeah, man,
Or I
clearly
want your
my
speed.
fault. Bro, you're so delusional.
Your middle tower is under attack.
I just used everything on the Oracle, bro. What do you want me to do? Tell me, please. Talk me through the game plan, what I'm supposed to do there.
No one evades my glare. No one evades. Your left tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Killing spree.
That's unfortunate. Cupid level 5 already is kind of crazy. And I doubt he gets the kill.
Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
Usually my game never stutters though. I don't know why it's stuttering now. It's kind of weird.
Okay, your right tower is under attack. Enemy missing your middle tower is under attack. Awesome.
Bro, why are you stepping up? Like, bro, just run away. Like,
Where is he? Missing a lot of farm here, Okami. That's aspect. It's not aspect actually. Okay.
I mean, my game's just done. He started on my speed, I'm so behind.
That's fine, just farm.
An ally has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack. You have been slain.
Both ults. Yeah, this just really sucks. Like we
Please, fellas, can you stop doing my back camps? Like, I beg.
They're just so low
Like,
every time.
I'll PayPal you money if you stop doing my backhands.
Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower is under attack.
Enemies at the Gold Fury.
Okay.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Yeah, I mean, it's not too surprising, though, to be fair. Like, we literally picked the most defensive,
Your middle tower is under attack.
like, duo, I would say. Like, Jingwei Gep is so passive. Compared to an... I mean, it's on her Agni, I guess, which is essentially 2 ADCs.
Your middle tower.
It will automatically be pretty hard into that,
An ally has been slain. Your left tower is under attack.
I suppose.
Enemy ultimate down.
Aegis plus O on Cupid.
Your left tower is under attack.
Behind an XP as well. It kind of sucks. To be expected after 2 deaths, but still.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Cupid doesn't know I'm on my way.
Shut down.
There we go. That's all we need. And I need not a lot of gold for this. Am I gonna be stupid and greedy? Perhaps. I'm not gonna stick around with 250 more gold.
An enemy has been slain.
That would be silly. I'm surprised I survived that though. I'm glad we got the Cupid either way. So that's good. And solid kill is needed too to get back.
An ally has
It's a big
been
kill.
slain.
Awesome.
Your left tower is under attack.
He's in the bush.
Return to base.
He did not back, man. Holy fuck.
I mean, why would he not back? Man? That's so dumb.
Okay.
Be careful, right.
On my way. Enemy spotted. Your middle tower is under attack.
Okay.
We
Oh
have
yeah,
Gep-
you know, my Geb support is aspect. Why not?
Yeah, I just realized that too. With Gep aspect, man. That's really not good. That is absolutely terrible.
Your left tower is under attack.
I've just figured out why duo lane's losing. Yeah, we can't defend the gold fury. We don't have a duo lane.
Has arrived. The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
That's their camp now. They get that whenever they want.
No, I don't think we should surrender, but it does look pretty grim with a Geb aspect.
Be careful, right?
Okay.
Enemy ultimate down.
I don't know why he went in, knowing that we were just told.
Hey, your middle tower is under
That's why I backed, man. They just told us that we're gonna TP.
I just fucking pinged it, by the way.
Your right tower is under attack. Your middle tower has been destroyed. Your middle tower is under attack. An ally has been slain.
I mean, I'm okay with the TP, but like, dude, what are you doing? If the ADC is TP'd as well,
shut the
like,
fuck up,
why are
please.
you sat back here farming a gold camp? Like,
the
push your
fuck up.
lane, bro. Yeah, man. Sure.
That's so tilted.
Fucking 0-3 on the safest god in the game, by the way.
Yeah, I have. The fucking Cupid is flanking me from behind my tower.
Your left tower is under attack.
Yeah, well, I wonder why, man. You were losing your lane before that guy showed up.
You fucking animal. I got ganked level 1 by Cupid.
Yeah, and you were losing because your Geb has aspect, bro. Like, what?
Yeah, then don't fucking blame me.
I didn't blame you. I said you were
You
losing.
just said-
Face
you-
facts,
you
no.
legit blame me.
I said you were losing. I didn't say it was Jingwei's
Guys, what
fault.
the fuck
Face
are you even
facts,
arguing
bro.
about, man?
I don't know, man. I kind of want to F6.
Hey, Bolt.
There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. Like,
Farm all to the next gold. We'll see if we can fight on gold. If we lose that, we can surrender, I guess.
bet.
Enemy spotted.
Your middle tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
I'm still keeping up with levels in terms of the highest levels in the game, so we should be able to still fight them.
Ward here. Ward here. Ward here. Ward here. On my way.
Oh, that Impale fucked me up. That sucks, man. That should be the freest kill of all time.
Attack the gold fury.
Close. I want to try something a bit different here. I kind of see how Bloodforge feels.
Defend! Help!
It's a weird build.
Be careful.
Defend the fire giant!
An enemy has been slain.
Dude, creeps. Hello.
Defend the fire giant!
On my way.
On my way! On my way!
I'm coming. They have subs.
Your left tower is under attack.
I have ult. Can we just get this?
Surely we, yeah, I was gonna say, surely we take this now, right?
Your team has destroyed the fire giant.
Just get out now.
So sorry.
Your left tower is under attack.
I did not see this coming, I can't lie.
No problem.
Just need some patience. It's fine. There's always a chance.
I had patience, I was just watching all my lanes collapse around me.
Yeah, but screaming at them doesn't help, you know? We just gotta chill a bit.
That's not me, bro. That's not me.
Watch out, Mark. On her and sub could TP to you. Yeah, they're here.
I'm TPing to you guys.
I'm running down the lane.
On her jumped.
You should at least push the lane here.
Yeah, we can push that one.
He jumped over the wall.
He jumped here.
Doesn't matter if he gets out. I'll chase him. Just push.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
Cerberus was somewhere in. On Cupid is pushing line. We can get left Phoenix.
Yeah, get
maybe,
Phoenix.
If he keeps pushing. Yeah.
Destroyed a left enemy tower.
They're all here. We should just go mid, in my opinion. There's a tier 1 up. Oh, we have 4 towers
Yeah,
still
we
up
should.
on the map. Just
yeah,
go
there are 4
mid.
people here.
Or we go in, apparently. Fair enough.
Your middle tower is under attack.
The rest of us just get out.
Slain an enemy.
Sorry.
Like, this is making me lose my mind.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy Phoenix.
Please get out. Thank you.
On her stone speed.
We need to push the tier 1s, I think.
Yeah, we do.
Like,
just
I
get
feel like
Pickup gets
this-
it first.
Yeah, but the gold kind of loses value when it's being used on this tier 1 tower, and right,
we
no?
need it. We need it. Yeah. Yeah, we lose now, but
It's more about denying it for them.
Still a
I don't want to
goal.
give it to them.
Yeah, fair enough. Just feel sad wasting big gold on 2 tier 1s. And
Yeah,
no
I mean,
Phoenix
that's
in
fine. We're
left.
just building a bigger lead anyway. I don't think we need it for the towers anyway. Or Phoenixes for that matter if we're in the lead. We're a very good siege comp.
Yeah, if Gib doesn't int again.
The enemy team has destroyed the Pyram. Your left tower has been destroyed.
3 people on mid.
Is under attack.
Careful in mid when you move wards.
We can push mid tower. They warded here, I think.
On my way. An enemy has been slain.
Back in mid. Cupid all down.
Ally has been slain.
I don't like this, I'm getting out.
Cupid no ult. That's his speeds, I think.
Now I'm getting out.
We can back off. We can push right now.
I honestly despise the way Caps plays this video game.
FG is up. Watch out. One more behind you.
Yeah, they're all behind, careful.
I'm on my way.
I'm okay, I just have to go long.
Cupid is here. The left
Go on,
Phoenix
me.
gonna respawn soon. We can wait for left Phoenix and we can
Your
do
middle
FG.
tower is under attack. An ally has been slain.
I need help. Cerberus is back in. The left Phoenix gonna respawn. We can fight this. He just dashed away. He's here.
Yeah, imagine get that extra CC, right?
He dashed.
Has arrived.
We can do FG now. Cerberus gonna have to defend left because there's a fire wave.
Yeah, just go straight to fire. Should be free.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm back up.
Can you heal me? Because it might be one that Nit can ult me anytime. Cupid has no ages, by the way.
Your team has destroyed the fire giant.
What a kiss, I love you, dude. You're my best friend.
We need to get gold now. They might be on it.
I was closer to Pyro. I can't really stop them if they're on it.
They're not.
Your team has destroyed the pyromancer.
I don't see
Your
anyone here.
team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Man, I didn't even see that mid tower. I'm so sad.
As the boar on Cupid.
We can push left.
Fury.
I'll get the wave. Watch out.
I have Titans in pocket. I'm gonna back.
Honor just jumped.
Coming for him. Where is he?
I think he's trying to waste time though.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, let's just push left. Oh, can we kill Sir?
I'm gonna defend right.
No, you
unless
guys
you
just
want to.
push. I'll defend it.
Agni, Serbs are here. Neath as well. Are they trying to push us?
Attack!
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy Phoenix.
Just do them all, I guess.
I'm TPing left. I'm away.
An enemy has been slain. Shut down.
You can get the Phoenix. They are all on left. Nice. Okay, this bro, just focus the Phoenix.
Yeah, I'm keeping them out though, man.
Okay.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy Phoenix.
Neath has no
Like
ult, we should be fine.
there's two people in the base, bro. Like they're not just gonna let us do that for free, you know?
It's fine. Good job. We got them.
I'm keeping them in the fountain.
What a weird game.
I mean, fuck me, man. How are they losing this game so hard? Farm up your last item, boys. Wait for the next fire.
The pyro has arrived.
Let me take this speed.
I mean, I don't need two of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna back here.
Gang me this, what do I tell you for my jungler?
I'm gonna go right.
Yeah, we should go do pyro.
It's
Just waiting
definitely
for
how I
next
feel
fire.
sometimes.
I'm coming.
If I'm really fit.
I got my full build.
I still need my last item.
Then I'm gonna need some people to compete me more. I know Cupid really wants to push. Let's see if he decides to.
Your team has destroyed the pyramid.
Honor is pushing mid.
Huge.
An enemy has been slain.
We push right Phoenix, I think. Neath ulted me.
Oh, honestly, I think if I tanked that, I might have died. I didn't see it, but that thing hurt.
Yeah, she hit me for 729.
Well,
Nice. GG.
Well done, guys. Yeah, it was a bit rough in the beginning. Mostly because of comms. Hey VBS, thank you for the raid, man. I hope you had a good stream. This was definitely a weird game. You should have heard the comms in hours in this game. It was something special. Bit of a rage. Yeah, you guys had a fun conversation. Hello, Kami. No. Oh well. Think you grew a motherfucker to the knees. Oh, which one? Dude, all these suck. Oh, beard? I could, but nah. I had a long beard once. And while I did enjoy the looks of it, it was just way too much fucking maintenance. That shit was too much. I tried. And then I have psoriasis, which makes it a lot worse. But I probably could, if I got used to it. But I imagine I could probably pull off a Kratos beard, I think. I think I could pull it. I'm not going to, but I think I could. I just trimmed it yesterday, so it is a bit on the shorter side at the moment. Yeah, at least you can grow a beard. Yeah, but I also lost all my hair, so it's a trade-off, you know? Can't get both, apparently. It's fine. I don't mind being bald, but I kind of have the same issue with it as like a long beard. Shit requires way too much maintenance. Like being bald is actually terrible in terms of maintenance. You need to fucking take care of that shit so often. It does feel nice when it's summer, though. I will say that. I'm glad I don't have long hair during the summer. I mean, eventually you just gotta accept. If you have a receding hairline, it's okay to go bald. It is, man. Sometimes you just gotta accept it. Took me a long fucking time to accept it, because mine started, like, my hairline started receding at 17. Dude, I was too fucking young. I don't wish that shit on anyone. No, you're a beautiful man, Dutch. You don't need to do shit. You do have to take care of hair. It's just like when I had hair, like pretty thick, long hair, I didn't like I didn't need to take care of it like every other day, basically. But if I want to keep my my head bald, I need to keep shaving. So in that way, it's a lot more maintenance than not. I don't think. I mean, the Agni ADC is pretty normal. Like it's pretty normal at this point. And it's not that bad. I generally think if someone plays something weird, you can definitely blame. You know, you can blame whatever you want, I suppose. But ultimately, it comes down to skill, right? Just gotta pull it off better. People thought Chalk Aspect was ass for the longest time when it came out. Like, look at it now. And it's not even in its best state anymore. It used to be super good. Now it's just okay. Like, non-aspect Chalk is probably just generally better. Hybrid non-aspect Chalk. The heal is just too good. Yeah, this, I don't know why the queue is so long. It's like the longest queue I've had in like 2 weeks. A head reveal? I mean, it's not a big secret. There is nothing underneath the cap. There is nothing. I'm sure you can imagine how my bald head looks. I can take it off if it's such a big deal, but it's not. There's nothing beneath the cap, buddy. There's a head with no hair. Take it off? I mean, alright. Give me a second. Let me finish this level then. I died. Alright. There we go. You can even tell where my hairline decided to stop. It receded all the way back, and it did not take the sides with it. It's the monk thing, you know? Where you just look like a monk if you let it grow. I'm not gonna do that. Like, wearing a cap just feels more natural. It's kind of weird. How a lot of people who end up going bald just gravitate towards caps or like headwear because of it. That makes sense, but still. Like, I'm not really self-conscious about it. Not anymore, at least. I used to be. Stop gooning. Gooning over bald men. A rare case. Except for his Kratos. Kratos did wonders for our reputation. Well done, Kratos. We needed that. Alright, what the fuck am I banning? I guess I will not be playing Bari, so... Walter White 2, yeah. I haven't watched that, though. I tried Breaking Bad a long time ago, I never really got into it, I never went back. I know I probably would enjoy it if I kept going. Can we stop banning Aladdin? I would like to play Aladdin. Did I make it into the queue? That sucks, man.
Select your god.
Guess I'll play Kali. Bald with no beard is fucked. Yeah, I do agree. Dude, I think I would have gotten depressed if I didn't have a beard to rely on when I went bald. That shit's brutal. I do feel bad for people that can't... Like, that doesn't have either. Like, I do think a rare amount of people, though, do pull off the no beard, no hair look. Damn it. Like, some people actually pull it off. It's kind of crazy. Like, but then you kind of need something else, like, physically to rely on, I feel like. Like a, you know, like a six-pack. Like, big muscles. Like, if you're ripped, you generally look good, no matter what you do, right? But, like, if you're like me, you're kind of chubby, you don't have nice hair, or you don't have a beard, I feel like you would struggle. Like you kind of just lost overall. I feel like some people will still like own it, and I think that's great. I hope the best for them. But still, I would feel really bad. It also sucked because for me, like, I don't know if it's very. I'm kind of into hair, like not in a weird way, but just I would have loved to have long hair, you know? I would have loved that shit. So that shit was taken away from me. So the fact that I can actually like do something with my beard is great. If I didn't have anything, you know, that I could customize in my face, I would hate that, you know? So it's important to me. I need my beard. Can you do a hair transplant? You can, but it's also expensive as shit. Like that's just like 25k, like Danish crowns. I don't just have money like that lying around. That shit's expensive. It might be a bit cheaper now, but at least when I looked it up, because I did look it up. It might be cheaper elsewhere, but I don't know how cheap it actually is in Denmark. Well, not the cheapest country, you know. Whoops, I accidentally flew up. Ow. Damn, I am losing way too much health here. What's that enemy team? I haven't checked. I think they might be slightly more stacked than we are, but I don't think it's that bad. I'm sure we'll be alright.
I suppose it won't hurt.
What am I against though? Thor? That kinda sucks. That's not gonna be a great matchup for me. Though I suppose it never really is. I'm not sure Thor does have a bad matchup. Yeah, I can imagine Turkey is a lot cheaper. But eventually, maybe I'll get a hair transplant. But for now, I'm content.
Minions have spawned. Enemy missing.
Okay.
Hi.
No!
Awesome. Cancel
Enemy
that. Cancel
missing
that.
right.
Cap is gonna be on speed.
Yes.
He's probably coming left after.
It's not gonna be enough. Close though.
Retreat left leg. That is unfortunate indeed. Double kill. The dance of power and strategy. Well played.
Damn, dude, the same thing happened twice in a row now. I don't believe it.
On my way. Be careful in the jungle.
Yes.
No, not enough damage, man. I need beast for that. If I pre-beast, that probably could have killed.
Enemies have returned to base.
They're not coming out of their tower unless Cupid is here.
Yeah, that's true, Okami. I'll let them do their thing.
Retreat.
Damn, didn't get the stack.
Your middle tower is
Excuse
under
me, the
attack.
stacks.
An ally has been slain.
It is the same mid and duo though, or mid and jungle, I should say. I wonder if they're duo queuing.
Your middle tower is under attack. Double kill.
Just stop, bro. Like, I'm telling you, get back.
Your middle tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack. Your left tower is under attack.
On my way.
Your left tower is under attack. Killing spree. Middle.
Retreat. 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 Retreat.
I'll just back. Finish my shit.
Your right tower is under attack. Killing spree. Double kill.
Dude, no man. It's so cooked. I'm not even gonna get late game, and by the time that maybe I join the fight, everyone's gonna be so fed.
On my way.
An ally has been slain. Your right tower is under attack. An ally has been slain.
Okay.
Kill.
He's so fed too, man. I think this is the render angle. I fucked that one up. I missed my two. But he's also level 9 or 8.
Your right tower is under attack.
Granted, that's same as me. Rough.
Your middle tower is under attack.
I can't believe this ended up being so one-sided.
Your right tower is under attack.
People just need to stop not expecting Caps to do the same thing he's doing every game.
Your right tower.
It's really not that hard to counter. You know he's starting on speed. Every game.
Retreat!
Your middle tower is under attack.
That's my tower gone so early too. Guess I should ban Cupid at the moment, because seems like people aren't really sure on how to deal with it, and it's one of the few things Cap can actually play.
Enemy ultimate down!
I can't believe Thor survived that. I got all 3 hits with my 2.
Team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Enemy ultimate down. Unstoppable. Killing spree.
It's cooked.
It's almost unfair. Your left tower is You have been slain.
It's time to get out, boys. We gotta get out. We ain't winning this one. To be this far behind this early in the game. It's rare. Yeah, I mean, Hippo does also have a very clear counter, so at least if Hippo gets picked, you know, there's something to pick against it. And I would say, like, Cupid does have counters too, it's just... I don't even think the god is the issue necessarily, it's just people aren't, like, being aware of what he's doing. And how he starts the game, and they still... Like, I even told them before it even happened. I told them, Caps is starting speed. Dual lane still died, both of them, to the gank that he does on dual lane after doing speed. So I'm not really sure what to say after that. They were warned, and they still died.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Yeah, it's gonna keep escalating, guys. We should just get out. The worst part about being like super high SR as solo is that you just can't control the other part of the map at all. So if I get like the losing team in a case like this, it doesn't matter what I do. I need to win my lane super hard to have any chance, and even then, it doesn't matter if it's this hard, you know. 7 kills from the mid laner and or 7 from the jungler and 5 from mid. It's not really a chance. Yeah, it happens. Not really much to do in games like that. I even won lane pretty hard, I just didn't get any kills out of it. Thor got out a few times with very low HP. I'm losing my voice already. We're probably just gonna ban the Cupid this time. Didn't get the Q. Yeah, this one instant, dude. I pressed the button and it popped. Like, that was crazy. Where is it? There it is. He's gonna target ban, we're gonna target ban. This does leave a lot of shit on the table, though.
Select your god.
Let's see. I mean, I could just do Kali again. Yeah, I'll do Kali again. Hades time? I don't want to play Hades, man. I don't want to sweat my balls off. Hades is fun. I'll play him when I feel like playing Hades, I guess, but I don't want to fucking hate your Hades. Yeah, but you're not on my team right now, though, right? So there's no benefit for me picking it right now. Whoever against each other in calm, I'm banning it. Yeah, I get it. I do think Hades is a fun one, because he is definitely ban-worthy, but not that many people actually play it to, I guess, the extent where he just solo carries, but he has the potential to do that. There's just a lot of other stuff to ban instead. It's kind of crazy. There's so much shit on the table, man. Aphrodite Morrigan is gonna be so annoying to deal with. But at least we have Sobek. I would imagine that Okami picks it. He loves that shit. The Dunge ban the Odin again. I mean, yeah, it's pretty easy to target ban people if they only generally play one thing. I need Dutch to stop banning the Aladdin, though. Because I'm literally just... You realize? I'm only playing the game right now because I enjoy playing Aladdin. But he's never open. I've gotten him once, like in the last few days. Yesterday. And that was the funnest game I've had in a while. Just want to play Aladdin. He gave me the best god of all time. But why not? Just once. I want to play Aladdin. Vamana isn't here. I mean, the thing is, I could just play Modred, right? He's the other god I enjoy a lot. I do need them to nerf some gods though, so I don't feel like there's so many oppressive ones. Like Sobek, Aphrodite, Kali are open this game. I would even argue Morrigan. I still think Morrigan is ban-worthy. Like this fucking god. This god is insane.
This should do well.
But she's better than picked lately. I guess people are just tired of her being bugged. Oh, well, this makes Sobek a bit worse so I can play him more. Yeah, for sure. I just don't know what they could do, because right now I feel like he's as strong as he is because his counters aren't in the game yet. So it's not that he's like he is that broken, it's just right now he doesn't have a counter. In Smite 1, he started getting worse when stuff like Ganesh came into the game, because Ganesh just straight up counters what he does. So, we need his counters to be here. Red Panda, like, I've seen a few times. Like, people seem to not like him all that much, but I don't know. It's been 50-50 on my part. Like, he doesn't really say anything. He just plays a bunch of weird stuff sometimes. Like, yep, jungle, from what I can see. Like, he doesn't even seem like that bad of a player. He just plays weird shit. It's just another bitch, you know? There's been a few people like that. And yeah, people tend to not really like them all that much. He is that bad of a player on good picks. I think it's weird. Like, sometimes he's performed pretty well in my games. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, most of his games do seem kind of criminal. That is true.
That's too bad.
Oh, it's an Afro solo. I mean, annoying a bit, but it does mean that I will just get pressure for free.
Nice job.
Ah, bad, bad, bad. Kind of fucking up my pressure by just missing everything on him.
Attack. Enemies in the left lane. That's too bad. On my way.
I'm actually dead. I'm not dead.
Oh, you're on my world. On my way.
An ally has been slain. Have slain an enemy.
Very early ult from him. I guess he expected the stun.
Retreat.
An ally has been slain.
Enemy ultimate incoming.
Okay. Ultimate is ready.
Double kill. Killing spree. An ally has been slain. Your middle tower is under attack.
Luckily, one of my most favorite gods are coming next. Well, not next actually, but after that. I do love Guan Yu, but I don't like the new Guan Yu as much as I like the old Guan Yu. And I'm really old. And when Guan Yu was remade, it was already in 2013. It was like the first, probably not the first rework actually, but it's one of the first reworks that any got in Smite. I missed the very first version of him. But I do like this one too. And I think he has some pretty interesting stuff in his kit, with the aspect as well. Like an intelligence aspect on Guan is pretty interesting. I might enjoy that more than the normal version of him.
Your middle tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. On my way. Thanks. Sorry. Ultimate is ready.
Damn. Good little juke.
Enemy missing. Careful.
Oh.
You have been slain.
I mean, I'll take the 1-for-1, but
Tower is under attack.
I mean, I'm trading myself for a Gep. So, and I lost the full wave for this too, but whatever.
Your right tower is under attack.
Aw, dude, she caught the brutalized. That's actually so unlucky.
Thanks. Nice job. Retreat! Retreat! Enemy missing middle.
Does that beats as well? Yeah, I think so.
An ally has been slain. Sorry. Ultimate is ready.
Should I just jumped over the wall? That was kind of bad to pick by me. Kind of wish Fenrir would rotate on this. Should have been some easy kills if he came earlier. But I mean, I get it. He went for speed and stuff, which is just generally more secure in terms of farm. But there was at least one kill involved there.
Your right tower is under attack.
But probably more. You look depressed. I'm fine. I mean, that's just how I look, I guess. I'm in a good mood today. I might look focused. I usually tend to get pretty focused when I'm playing. But yeah, I'm fine. Maybe tired. A little bit. I'm not a very depressed person.
Your middle tower.
I'm pretty happy in general.
An ally has been slain. Your left tower is under attack. Your middle tower is under attack.
Gank right lane.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury.
Back off.
Don't hate me because I'm beautiful.
Dude, that shit is so far away, I can't even do anything about it. He needs to get this kill, though. I mean, it's obviously not really worth it for us, but... Dude, the fucking Neathhold on me every time I do anything is so annoying. I've been Neatholded like 4 times this game. And it's so far away, I cannot tell when it's going to land on me. Because last game I was dealing with a Neath in mid.
Your right tower is under
So
attack.
suddenly it's just a different distance.
Enemy spotted. Your right tower is under attack.
Trust me, I think I'm getting too much sleep. And it's kind of bothering me. I'm getting way too much sleep. And then I'm just overtired. Except for maybe
Your middle
today.
tower is under attack.
I think I got a just pretty decent 7 or 8 hours, but...
Your left tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. Your middle tower.
I'm not really sure what to do this game. We're just losing everywhere because there's just way more jungler pressure from their side.
is under attack.
And this one early on.
Enemy missing.
It's not just jungle pressure, it's also like around mid. We have Kukulkan into a Morrigan. He's been solo killed a few times, that also obviously makes a difference.
The enemy team has destroyed the pyramids. Your right tower is under attack.
One kiss from me.
You rock. Bye.
Killing spree.
Can't even really rotate. Try and help out.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Back off.
Retreat left lane. That's too bad. Your left tower is under attack.
This kind of sucks. I was really hoping they were gonna push up on this.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Because they went gold and then they leached it for some reason. Against only 2 people. When does this build start to chunk? It kind of already does. The problem is just they're all kind of fed. Like, this build feels nice once you stack up both your 2 first items. And then it kind of just gets better and better from there. But if you think about one-shot stuff, generally like full late game.
Enemy missing right.
From what you would expect from like int builds in the first place.
Ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. Destroy the right enemy tower.
Afro did rotate. They probably get gold as well, but let's see if I can get a tier 2.
Has arrived. Your left tower is under attack.
We're just too far behind everywhere else.
Double
It's
kill.
literally a repeat of last game.
Your left tower is under attack. The enemy team is destroying the Gold Fury.
Maybe I can farm enough. But even if after all my solo farming guys, I'm still a level behind the 2 of them on their team, so.
Your middle tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
It's fucking Neath hold, man. It's absolute shitty Neath hold. It's always on me. I also keep forgetting to swap my target. That's my bad. I don't play Kali enough.
Shut down.
That was such a bad pluck. That sucks, man.
Your left
Like, I don't know why we're plucking when we don't need to.
Your left tower has been destroyed.
He stays in the spot, he just dies. We pull him away, he's probably gonna get away because I just jumped on him.
Enemies have returned to base.
Always remember, guys, if you're playing like a disposition god, like Hercules or Sopek, you gotta be very careful when you decide to use your abilities. Because you might just save them instead.
On my way.
What's this ARAM in mid? What's happening?
Your middle tower is under attack. Be right back.
not getting killed, man. Ah, that sucks so bad.
Enemy ultimate.
It's like the 6th or 7th needle this game.
Enemies at the Cold Fury. The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury. No problem.
Sucks to get the kill. That was my target. All those damn stuns. Sure just pre-beats it.
An ally has been slain. Sorry. Retreat.
They're getting pretty low.
An ally has been slain.
How low are they? That's crazy.
Double kill. Triple kill. Immortal. Quadra kill. Shut down.
I'm glad he was right below me there.
Your left tower is under attack.
Alright, well I'm fed now. Let's go spend some gold. The double shielding on Achilles is rough to deal with. Just because they have Gap, but still. So glad they buffed mages for next patch. Well, to be fair, assassins are also pretty decent. Well, they're decent. I wouldn't say they're good, but it's safe to say that Ind is definitely really good. It's definitely better than strength at the moment, I would say.
Retreat.
I do not want to just instantly go on someone when I don't know where the rest is. It's like a recipe for disaster.
No problem. An enemy has been slain. Enemy spotted.
Gank.
I'll defend. Ultimate is down. Enemies in the middle lane. Enemies
Retreat
spotted.
left lane.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
Set up an ambush here.
Oh, they still hit me. I mean, what are we doing in left, boys? What are we actually doing in left? We need to just group. Our 5v5 is quite good. Imagine they're just doing gold. See how far I can push right in the meantime.
The enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Enemies at the fire giant. On my ultimate is ready.
On my way.
I just got insta-die, okay. Didn't expect that. My bad, I guess. I thought we were going in. I actually just got fucking one shot. Wild.
Be right back.
Like, I do think Kali is good, but I'm not sure. I'm still not really sure what I really think about her. Like, she has a very high damage output,
On my way.
but she also has pretty long cooldowns. Like, she can't do, what is this? Brother. Artemis, my friend, what was the plan? What is he been building to?
Too close.
Not a whole lot of attack speed. But that could be good once he has some attack speed. As I was saying, I think Kali has still struggles with the usual stuff of just sticking to the target. She has a lot of burst, but if you miss, like, either miss the 3 or the 2, like, there's so much of your damage goes away. I don't think she's, like, broken.
Your left tower is under attack. Your
There's definitely aspects of her that is broken, for sure. Like, she has a lot of damage right now with the inbuilt. I just don't know if I would go as far as to call her broken.
Your left tower is under attack.
I'm surprised that I lived through that. I thought I fucked up.
An enemy has been slain.
Very good. This could actually be really huge for us. Morgan was low as well.
Fire giant.
Slain an enemy.
Yes.
On my enemies and enemies. An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain. Your middle phoenix is under attack. Double kill. Killing spree. The pyromancer has arrived.
I don't get it.
Double kill.
You will never.
Killing spree. Triple
I mean, I got him, but
spree.
yeah, that sucks. That heal would have been huge.
Deicide.
And we're still losing this Phoenix.
Your middle phoenix is under attack.
The creeps aren't in yet. He's not getting a whole lot out of this. Dude, he's gonna die for this. Holy, okay, he didn't die. That's crazy. Dude, all he had to do was kill the creeps, and he gets it. That's crazy. I can't believe that's what we're listening to right now.
Fire giant. Attack the fire giant.
On my way.
Wait, wrong one. If it gets this, that's huge. If we don't,
Your team
might be
has
cooked.
destroyed the fire giant.
Awesome. Now we just need to live through this.
Save yourself.
An ally has been slain. Retreat! An enemy has been slain. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. Your middle phoenix has been destroyed. Your middle phoenix is under attack. On my way.
Enemy spotted.
Have slain an enemy.
Attack the gold fury.
On my way. Ultimate is down.
Don't think we can push a Phoenix at the moment, but at least we gotta get this.
Your team has destroyed the gold fury. On my way. Ultimate is ready.
Almost.
Your team has destroyed the pyromancer. Be right back.
Retreat. Group up. I suppose it won't
Let's get a bunch of wards. I would like a more another 3k pot, but
Be careful, right?
for now I just gotta make sure we actually have vision. Yeah, level 18 at 31 minutes is definitely rough for the Achilles. It is 19 now, but
Attack middle lane.
Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted.
Middle enemy tower. On my way. Be careful.
I'll defend left lane. Be careful.
Retreat.
grab speed again actually. Fucking wave is gonna lose again.
Be careful, right.
I'm gonna back. I got another 3k pot, and fire won't spawn for just a little while. I think our wave should win now. Whoops. I accidentally threw my ward.
On my way. Group up.
Yes. Ward here.
Attack fire giant. Enemies in left lane. I'll defend.
The pyro has arrived. Destroyed the fire giant. An ally has been slain. Killing spree.
They fought well.
An enemy has been slain. Your left Phoenix is under attack. Your left Phoenix has been slain an enemy. I was double kill. Immortal rampage. Your middle Phoenix is under attack. Your Titan is under attack.
Alright, I think we... Can we even end? We need a Phoenix at least.
On my way. Attack the Gold Fury.
Attack middle lane. Middle lane.
On my ultimate is
We need a Phoenix for this, boys.
destroy the middle enemy Phoenix.
Retreat. Retreat. Attack the Gold Fury.
An enemy has been slain.
That's big. At least we've reached a point where I can one-shot Morgan before she gets to, like, turn into me really and ult. Which was the big problem before.
Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Attack left lane.
Let's get another one too. I haven't had this many 3k pots in I don't know how long. Three 3k pots. Shit's been a while.
Attack left lane.
How much in? To 1k. Yeah, you guys can't see it. Maybe I should move my cam up a bit. I'm at 1k and 73. Which is so much for this meta. It's like Kukulkan levels, you know? The average end user never gets this much.
Attack. Killing spree. An enemy. I was supposed to.
Attack the Titan.
I want to take Neath out first. I don't want to one-shot Neath suddenly out of nowhere.
Victory.
Yeah, 1,000 in. Though to be fair, like the like 3-hit pods exist to, you know, to end out games. Like, it's the whole point of it. Yeah, no worries, pain. It happens. Had to log out because our Neath is egoing. Fair enough, man. Yeah, you were a thorn though, Dutch. Like, you are definitely the hardest one for me to deal with here. I could only really deal with you the second I started being able to one-shot. Yeah, it was a pretty hard match, Okami, it was. I also haven't had to, I guess, lock in as hard as I had to that game in quite a while. And also on a god that is able to lock in. Like, if I'm just playing Mordred, it's gonna be harder to lock in like that. I can't really solo carry on Mordred. In the same way, at least. There's not really any one-shotting happening there. Whoops. This map is so pink. I am tired of Afro. Get her out. GG, I carried. You'll play well as Sexy Capri. Just aiming for the Kali again, I suppose. Since they keep banning my Aladdin.
Select your god.
Gotta calm me, he's so big. Kind of feeling that Mordred, now that I talked about it. And he's good here too. But if they pick Mordred, I have an even better idea. That I kinda hope that they do. Because they will never expect it. SR Gunner? What? What do you mean? I'm not playing Sobek, Dutch. It's for Okami. I don't want to play Sobek. Get me. Yeah, it's gonna be the Mordred. If I'm against Cabraka and Odin, I'm gonna need something with survivability. And it's not gonna be Zeus, which I really wanted to play too. But to me, Dutch, it kind of looks like your team is SR slaving a little bit. What is this Odin Cabrakan stuff happening, huh? That's kind of nasty. Dude, Caps leaves for a Q and then comes back, and now it didn't ban the Cupid. That's something.
Hi there! May your day be as snug as a bug in a rug!
Let's do the usual start.
Yes! Enemy spotted!
Cabrakan. Not sure I've seen this guy play solo before, so we'll see how this goes.
Minions have spawned.
Does seem like he is starting alone. I wanted to check.
Good luck,
Pleased to
friend.
make your acquaintance.
Hi there!
Okay, well, I lost 3 creeps. And he didn't, so I can only assume that he started on blue, so... Bad start for me. But that's alright. I'll just have to play around it. Get some extra XP somewhere else to catch up.
Be right back! High five, team! Team? Guys!
Be careful, left!
Be careful, right? Cancel that.
Okay.
Completed!
Attack left lane!
This might be good. The double stun is too much.
On my way!
think we definitely win the 5v5, I would say.
Enemy missing left. Slain an enemy. Killing spree. Double kill. Nice job, my fantastic friend.
Damn. Well, they walked right into that one. Hey, Sing, how the game's pretty good. I've had some good games today. Some weird ones though, but some pretty good ones.
On my way.
I'm so sorry.
Oh well.
Would have liked the XP, but it's alright.
Ultimate is friends. I'm very sorry.
On my way. Follow my trail.
He's not gonna have a whole lot of success camping me, at least in this matchup. My ult's always gonna be up. They might both TP from over here, one below, one top.
Enemy missing middle.
No, they're both still here.
Be right back.
Enemy spotted. Enemy ultimate down.
Let's go back and ult.
Enemy spotted. Enemy spotted. Enemy missing middle.
Attack left wing. Attack. An enemy has been slain.
Alright, going pretty well.
Ward here.
Okay. Fit to consume both life and soul.
Fantastic friend.
Let's just use this as an Apollo ult to get back to lane.
Your right tower is under attack.
Enemy missing right. Nice job, my fantastic friend.
Cupid in left. I will. Actually, I'm gonna back.
On my way.
Shut down.
my way. On my way. Ultimate is down.
Your middle tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain.
Ultimate is down.
No problem. Nice job, my flufftastic friend.
Just make sure that they're getting punished for a rotation like that. Because they went so deep for him. Not really much he can do about that. No beef allowed. Yeah, no beef allowed. I'll put a stop to it. To have 5 assists. I would have the most assists a solo 9 minutes. Okay.
Enemy spotted.
Any kills?
Gank.
I'm a monk. Oh, shit. Mordred the monk.
Pleased to make your acquaintance. Be careful.
An enemy has been slain.
That sucks, man. They actually still managed to get to the wall in time. We got gold though, so that's good. I'll take the trade. I'm just a monk anyway.
I suppose the mess will have to wait.
You eternally by my side.
Like if we're in a position where the support feels the need to gank me, I'll take the trade. If my team knows how to follow up on that and just control the other side instead, I'll take it. I'll be the support Mordred. I didn't think they were actually gonna kill me though.
Very sorry.
So sorry.
But I guess makes sense. Shield Splitter Odin. It's got a lot more damage, as well as Sunder, I suppose, than just your average support. Damn, they took my blue though. That's kind of personal.
Your left tower is under attack.
Ultimate is down. Enemy missing. Enemy missing. Cancel that.
I'm so tempted to gank them. I will not. I'm gonna do it for nothing.
Ultimate is ready.
Ultimate is ready.
My ult did not want to cancel.
Enemy ultimate down.
Double kill.
They will not get away.
Triple kill. Your middle tower is under attack.
There is too much focus on me in these fights. Can you leave me alone? Maybe go for the Awelix that's in like 11-1. Why me? I'm not the threat this game.
Your middle tower is under attack.
Enemy missing middle. Be careful left.
I'm building way too much defense. I'm actually not gonna go for this item for once. Maybe I will later, but I actually just need more magic defense.
Ultimate
Because, yeah, their ADC is also magic. It's gonna be more magic damage coming in than physical in this one.
High five, team! Team? Sorry. So sorry. No problem at all. Thanks. Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower.
Yeah, you won't back. Not on my watch.
My way. I'll defend. Your team has destroyed the pyramid. Nice job, my flufftastic friend.
I'm so sorry.
Cancel that. So sorry.
An enemy has been slain. High five, team! Guys,
It's blew up. Perhaps no.
On my way. Gank middle lane.
enemy ultimate down.
You
An enemy has been slain.
Will have to wait.
You have slain an enemy.
I got killed.
Your last tower is under attack.
Kills are happening.
Ally has been slain. Crumbs, I'm very sorry. Be right back. An enemy has been slain. You have slain an enemy. Deicide.
Damn. Sniped.
enemies
Attack the
incoming.
Gold Fury. Don't worry, we're still having fun.
They will not get away. Not again.
Let's just get this regardless. It's too good on Mordred not to have. I love specialized items specifically for some gods. Like Phoenix Shield on just on paper isn't really that good of an item, but specifically on Mordred it's super good. I love this shit like that. I think there needs to be items like that too, that are just really situationally good. Like if you ever buff those kind of items, you're just buffing the gods themselves. So I do think they should remain untouched. Because I think we can all agree, as much as I do like playing Mordred, he does not need a buff.
Gank left lane. Ultimate is ready.
The pirate. Destroy killing spree.
Overall, pretty lucky disperse. Timed exactly when my ult. I wasn't sure if it was beats or disperse, so I just went for it. Surprised they haven't surrendered.
No problem.
We have a very, very big lead in this game.
Aren't you impressive?
Your right tower is under attack.
Cube is a warrior. Yeah, I know he sticks it out. I can respect it, but sometimes it's good to admit when it's over.
Enemies at the fire giant.
Attack! Attack!
Ultimate is enemy spotted.
My flufftastic friend. On my way. Your right tower is under attack. Careful left. Be careful left. Your right tower is under attack. An enemy has been slain. Double kill. Rampage.
You can let me tank a coming.
Team has destroyed the fire tower. Your left tower is under
Need to unplug my controller. Fucking glitch is happening again where this shit just vibrates every time I take damage.
your left.
I have it on for other games, but in Smite it goes crazy.
Very strong, my flufftastic friend. High five, team. Team.
Don't think they need me to rotate.
I'll attack right lane. Attack left lane.
Okay. Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower. Your team has destroyed a left enemy Phoenix. No problem at all. Thanks.
Chasing a bit too far, my friends.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. Your right tower is under attack. Your right tower is destroyed. Double kill. Your right tower is under attack. Destroy the middle in your right tower has been destroyed.
Ultimate is down.
Yeah, I was surprised you guys didn't just surrender that one. Like, at no point in this game was any lane really winning, so... Some heavy F7 warriors on your team there. I need some healing here. No healing. Ooh. Max health is nice, but still not healing. Yeah, I think Odin is a main jungle, so he just tried to play the best way he knew how to play. And he was a thorn in my side, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, I mean, Sol is obviously not the greatest ADC at the moment, but... As a mage, she can still do stuff. I don't think she's a bad ADC necessarily, but you gotta build a bit different. I think the build was the main problem in my eyes. Like, Sol's passive still hurts real bad. She's a hard one to box. First time I'm not banning today. Or I'm not first pick, I should say. I am banning.
Select your god.
I just want to play Aladdin. I don't know what else I should play. I'll do Hades. Whoever said it earlier, there you go. I think it was Immortal Ram. Here's the Hades. Man. Yeah, I don't know what else to play, man. I'm sorry. Like, I just played Mordred. He's usually my go-to when I don't know what to play. I've already done that. Chuck is another one. I played that earlier. Every time you play solo, I'm against Hades. That is pretty tragic. I would hate my life too. Luckily for me, not that many people play Hades at the moment. Unless you're Sav. Sav spams the shit out of Hades lately. But I also don't meet Sav very often. Right, there's a weird laser boss. Why did it go inside its ass? Oh my god, there are way too many lasers. Lasers. so many. There's too many. Oh my god, no way you're tapping me out now. No. Oh, thank god. It always taps me out when I get into a game, and I just always forget because I'm usually too engrossed in the game to notice. I'm gonna pause before I finish it though. What am I seeing? Do I really have to go ages? There's no way. I think I'm going to. Ages Hades. I might go a bit hybrid this game. The famous Gunter Fenrir. Why is Gunter not mid?
Minions have spawned.
Have fun. Doctor's orders. Later.
Well, he started here, so...
Enemy spotted.
That probably means there's gonna be a jungler in our speed.
Be careful, right?
Retreat! Here! Retreat! Enemy missing front. Careful, mid.
First blood.
Huge. That hurts.
An ally has been slain. Enemy spotted.
It's a Poseidon here too.
Kill.
Should still have an XP lead considering I have both back camps. We're pretty much even in XP, because I did not got denied a few creeps. Damn, Gobble getting real fed over there.
Triple kill! Rampage! Hell cancel that. Keep a step up a little. Your right tower is under attack. Enemy missing left. An enemy has been slain.
Would have loved to yoink that kill. But I do think it's better on a Fenrir. I'll be there for late game anyway. I actually do need to back.
My power grows.
Let's do this. I'll do Helm of Radiance. I'll stay safe early on. They also have a really, really hard comp for me to deal with this Hades, because if I ever ult, I might just get like Kulkan ulted, Kraken, Cupid ulted, Jug ulted. They have huge ultimates. But that could also be the counter argument for why I should go full damage, because I'm dead anyway. Might as well just try in one shot. It is Aspect Chuck. I didn't actually realize. That's good for me. Because that is a matchup that will only get better for me.
Enemy ultimate down.
Your right tower is under attack. You have slain an enemy.
Be careful around.
An ally has been slain. Your right tower is under attack.
I probably make it sound like I'm not gonna go full damage. I will still go full damage. Just except for this Helm of Radiance. Because normally it would be like a Book of Thoth or some other huge damage item. He really wants this. You wanna try, buddy?
Shut down. Completed.
It's unfortunate. If I had more mana,
Enemy ultimate down. Okay.
damn, he stole that too. Shit. That is really unfortunate. Then you got both blue buffs. Probably made us pretty even in XP as well after that kill.
Enemy missing left. Be careful, middle. Behind us. An ally has been slain. Killing spree. Double kill.
Ultimate down. Ward
It's a full HP Cupid. I was thinking about TPing, but I think I'll pass.
I'll be right back.
I will just keep farming.
Enemy missing left. Enemy missing left. Cancel that. Tower is under attack.
I'll trade an ult for now.
spotted.
Retreat.
Okay,
Pyromancer has arrived.
I'll take that.
Enemies in right.
Yes. Your right tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain. On my way. Your right tower has been destroyed.
Never mind, I guess.
Enemy spotted.
Your team has destroyed the Cold Fury. You have slain an enemy.
No ult response.
Destroyed. An ally has been slain. I'll be right back. Your middle tower is under attack. An ally has been slain. On my way. Your middle tower is under attack. Rampage! under attack. Enemy missing left.
Ult's back. That was so much gold.
Enemies in right lane.
Stay safe, or else.
An enemy has been slain. Your left tower is under attack.
I forgot he had blink actually.
Missing right.
Enemy
Cancel
ultimate
that.
down.
Enemy spotted.
Got a cuckoo all out of it, I suppose. And I don't know how loud it is for you guys, but the Q game in the background is making noise at the moment because of where I paused, so I do apologize if that might be slightly distracting. It does distract me a little bit.
An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
Goal.
Enemy missing right.
Enemy missing left. On my way. Your team has destroyed the Gold Fury. The Pyromancer has arrived.
Fortunate. Could have been nice to catch a little cubit on the way back, but wasn't bad TP either way. And there he is now in lane. Great. It's not alone though, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Enemy missing left. Your left tower is under attack.
Excuse me.
Your team has destroyed the Pyromancer.
Enemies in right lane.
Unstoppable. An enemy has been slain. Your right tower is under attack. Double kill. I defy you. Your right tower has been destroyed.
Enemies in right lane.
Your team has destroyed a middle enemy tower. On my way.
Don't even think I need to rotate for this. They'll probably get the kills before I get there anyway.
Spree.
But yeah. I don't really need to back here, I think. We could probably just push Phoenixes, but I don't think it matters if I'm there or not. Don't think my team needs me. I'll just go join get Poseidon, I suppose.
An enemy has been slain. Double kill. Immortals. Shut down. I say that was a horrific slain an enemy.
It's gonna save my ult.
Okay.
I'll just push up the lane. Didn't see it with Fenris dead. Then I don't really have much of a choice. Is Gunter mid? No, he was surprisingly jungle this game. Don't know if it was intended.
Your team has destroyed a left enemy tower.
They got me. Damn it.
Your team has destroyed an enemy Phoenix. Shuts down. Enemy ultimate down.
That sucks. Did Chuck actually ult? Maybe he didn't. Yeah, he didn't. Never mind. They have a lot of anti-healing, Chuck. That's kind of it, actually. No, never mind, Divine Ruin. I was thinking about more lifesteal, but maybe that's a bad idea. Probably just go full on power. I don't actually know what I want. I could do Chronos Pendant for some cooldown.
Your team has destroyed the gold fury.
Or just do Morb. I'll do Chronos Pendant. Do think it's a weird item on Hades, but this build is already kind of weird, so.
Your left tower is under attack. Your left tower has been destroyed. Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
Take a seat.
I got my Aegis if I need it.
Destroyed a right enemy Phoenix. Need healing. Destroyed a middle enemy Phoenix. I say that was a horrific shame.
It's getting pretty hot. I can feel the sun is hitting my apartment now. Probably gonna be the last game as well. Then going for my usual ish time. I've had fun. Would also rather just stop while the game's still fun.
Your team has destroyed the pyramid.
Probably shouldn't have taken that. I hate having this as Hades. Because I don't really want to be that close. Yeah, sector 1 I ult. All the CC down. Dude, what the fuck? How long was I CC'd? I had a very small window to press my ult and I didn't press my ult. And I might have been able to heal off of it. But whatever. They got me.
I am so very sorry.
Victory.
That's what I get for not having beats. But I did immune a lot of damage and they still managed to get me. That was surprising. Oh well. I'll stop it there. As mentioned, it's getting real fucking hot. I can feel that the sun is starting to hit my back a little bit. So I'm sweating. But successful today. Don't think I lost any games. No, that's not true, actually. We did have one quick surrender, but outside of that, 4 wins. And my weirdly high SR just keeps going higher. Chris, are you top 2? Yeah, I mean, I don't know how me and Gunter were on the same team. Like, that's actually kind of weird. So is me and Gunter, like, who was top elo on your team? Caps? Like, let me just check tracker real fast. Yeah, but Bushy, I'm just as high as Gunter is. I'm higher than Gunter. My SR is almost 7k. That's the thing. My SR is abnormally high for some, like, it's insane. I don't know how we ended up on the same team without being against someone else about the same. This is not the right game. Let me see if I can... no, tracker is not showing me the right game at the moment. I can't check the SR differences, but I mean, yeah, that's kind of crazy. Actually, I think I can check what Caps is through another game, right? Let me see if I can find Caps's. Dude, I don't see Caps anywhere. What the fuck? Where is this? Never mind. I think my tracker is... Nope. Never mind. I can't find it on tracker. But yeah, GG's, guys. That was fun. I had some fun today. Well, I had a lot of fun today, actually. So yeah, I'll end it here. Is there anyone else streaming and worthy of the host? Worthy. Everyone is. But let's see if we can find someone that we know of. Is Gunter streaming? I might as well just throw everything over to him. Let's see, Smite 2. Oh, Nika is also streaming. Damn, I'm surprised we didn't actually meet in the queues then. Calvin is also streaming. I could throw it over to Calvin. Yeah, I'll throw him over to Calvin. Like, Nika usually gets a lot of viewers, so let's throw him over to Calvin.